So here we are, November 5th, 2017, and we've had another shooting in Texas, close to where I live, just south of here, probably about 30 minutes south of where I am right now. There was a shooting in a church. A nut job went into a church and shot. The numbers are still mixed, but I think at the most recent count is 27 people are dead and another 20 injured. So what we have is we have renewed calls for gun control legislation by Democrats. Bodies are still warm, they're still cooling off, and you've already got the calls for gun legislation to be enacted in Congress. Gun owners have a lot of rights when it comes to owning guns and carrying their guns. We are an open carry state now. They allow, the legislature has allowed concealed carry in more places than ever before. However, there's still some confusion about whether it's still legal to carry a gun in a church or not. So I did some research. Initially, it looked like it was a prohibited place, but if you do some research, there has to be a 3006 sign. So I'm no lawyer. I don't pretend to be a lawyer. I have some legal knowledge, but a lot of it is antiquated at best. So bottom line is, it's not really clear as to whether you can carry in a church or not. And from the results of this shooter, I would say that nobody there was concealed carrying. So what you have is you have another facility where a man who was obviously deranged and had some kind of mental problem decided that killing himself wasn't enough. He had to go in and kill other people too to make a name for himself, to create his 15 minutes of fame. So he decides to take that out on people in a church who in this particular case were completely unarmed. And what you end up with is you end up with numbers where 27 people are dead, another 20 are injured, and gun control legislation that legislators want to enact in order to prohibit even further the ability of a licensed gun owner, a free American citizen, to exercise their Second Amendment right. Now, I understand common sense gun legislation is the great buzzword of the day. That phrase started under the Obama administration, common sense everything, right? Well, common sense would say if you don't have laws that prohibit a perfectly healthy person from carrying a concealed weapon wherever they want to go, then when a nut job comes into a place like this, they don't get to kill 27 people. They don't get to shoot another 20 people on top of that. They don't get to have their name marked down as the worst mass shooting in a church ever, which is some of the articles that I've seen. This guy's name's plastered all over everywhere. He's getting his 15 minutes of fame. He's going to go down in the record books as the person who's committed the most violence, the greatest number of body counts ever in a church. And that's what these sick bastards want. And the media cannot give them enough of what they want. It is beyond them to refrain from publicizing this person's name, to refrain from giving personal details about this jackass. And that's what these guys want. And it's just, it pains me to no end to see these guys getting their 15 minutes of fame, and that the media is just complicit with that, 110%. And then it creates national outrage, and there's calls to do something, and there's calls to do this, and government is always the answer. For weak-minded people, it's always the answer. We have to solve this through some kind of congressional legislation. It doesn't matter what it is, it just has to be done. So that's when you get knee-jerk legislation like you see in New York and California, where, you know, both houses are controlled by a single party, and they pass, you know, gun laws in the middle of the night, instantly making an otherwise legal citizen in the United States a felon automatically. You can look at New York's legislation, how people with magazines that didn't give them up or sell them are now automatically criminals. So, you know, that's what the Democrats want. They live in a fantasy world where they can pass laws to protect humans from evil, and all they have to do is have a law passed in Congress to remove an item. But you can't ever remove intent. You can't ever remove, evil from someone's heart, whether it be a gun with a semi-automatic magazine in it, or it be a U-Haul truck, or it be a Freightliner, or an F-650, or whatever, you know, ammonium nitrate and diesel fuel. You know, you can't, people with intent and evil in their hearts will find a way to commit these kinds of crimes. And if you're a psychopath or you're some kind of deranged individual where all you want is to be remembered after you're gone because your life is such a total waste, and you want to go out and take a bunch of people with you so that you'll be remembered, so your name will be on CNN and MSNBC and ABC, CBS, etc., etc., the media will be too happy to oblige you. So to stop publishing these fuckheads' names. So I encourage anybody in the media that if you happen across this, please stop posting these fucking assholes' names so that we can stop fucking looking at the next copycat who's going to try the exact same thing in the future. So at any rate, no legislation is gonna prevent this. No, I mean, the guy could have fucking bolted the doors and set the place on fire, and he'd had just as much of an impact. He could have taken a ball-peen hammer and smacked people as they came out windows. There are ways to do what this guy did without using a gun. He chose the gun. The gun is the most vilified object in the United States society. But it's the person who's using that tool that is the true evil. And you can't vilify a gun. You can't make hundreds of thousands of Americans instantly felons or criminals in some capacity without completely fucking stripping the Second Amendment. Now, if you want to strip the Second Amendment, just say that. Say that your intent is to get rid of the Second Amendment. And then we can talk about gun legislation. But you have to get people on board with that. But this nickel and diming, this chiseling away, this death by 1,000 paper cuts or 1,000,000 paper cuts, it's asinine. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of effort. It is a waste of congressional efforts. And the only people that believe this shit are living in a bubble of society. They have no understanding of what's going on in this world. So anyway, if you're against gun control, if you think that legislative action is not the way, let your congressmen know, let your senators know, let your mayors know, and your city councils, and anybody who will listen to you. Let private industry know that if they have a 3006 sign on their door, that you're not gonna frequent their establishments. The only way to stop this is when a person with good in their heart confronts that evil in some capacity and puts an end to it. It appears that somebody like that did that in this particular case. There's word that there was an exchange of gunfire by a neighbor with this shooter, and that made him flee the scene. I don't know what the situation is. I mean, it's still unfolding. It literally happened a couple hours ago. But the calls to blame Republicans, the calls to enact legislation that will restrict law-abiding citizens' rights to carry a firearm or own a firearm are already starting in the Congress. So let everybody know that that's not what you want to see happen, that removing some of these gun laws is really the only way to address a psychopath who would commit murder. Anyway, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.